Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I wanted to share with you our 1969 Mercedes. This is a 69 280 SE. This car came to us, kind of an interesting story, but about a year ago, I went up, I kind of tagged along with Alex and Adrian. They went up to a dealership up in Hermosa Beach to buy a car for Adrian's wife as kind of a surprise. And I just tagged along, and the older gentleman that owned this smaller dealership, it was a dealership for import cars and whatnot. They had a slew of late model BMWs and Mercedes and things like that. And as we were sitting there chatting with him, I noticed above his desk was this picture of him standing in front of this 1969 Mercedes, and he looked a good 40 years younger, and turns out that he bought the car when it was just a year or two old, and traveled through Germany with it, and brought it back to the States, and went ahead and you know, kept it, and it was a part of his life as he got married and had a son, and his son was the general manager of the dealership, and it was just interesting. And he said, you know, why don't you follow me? And I followed him upstairs into an upper parking lot, and he pulled the cover back, and there was this 69 Mercedes. Now, you know, it had been painted once, and it was in a little rough shape. It had been sitting outside for God knows how many years, but it was its original color, which is a really unique color. It's an anthracite, non-metallic anthracite, and it needed everything. It needed chrome. It needed all the bright work refinished. It needed a paint job. It had some rust issues on the bottom of the rear quarters, and the upholstery was just pretty tattered. Hadn't run in years. So I looked at him and I thought, man, this thing must bring back lots of memories. And he said, oh, I remember my wife driving around Hermosa Beach pregnant with my son, who's now the manager of the dealership. And I said, oh wow, what a great story. So anyway, we went about our business, and I couldn't stop thinking about this car the entire time Adrian was putting a deal together on this M3 he was buying for his wife. And before we left, I said, Lars, whatever you do, you got to sell me this car. And so I talked to his son, Eric, and I went back and forth, and he goes, oh, I'd love for you to have it. I know you restore cars. And we stayed in touch, and lo and behold, a few months later, he said, you know, we want to sell you the cars. You know, being a 280 SE, two-door, these weren't built on the assembly line like the four-door sedans are. These cars were actually built on a production line, but built by hand. And so a lot of the finish work on this car is unique to the coupe, obviously because it's a coupe, but it's not aluminum, it's actually steel, and copper finished, pot metal. These pieces right here are actual pot metal and steel, so we had those re-chromed. And you know, your stainless molding up here on top, that's actually an aluminum piece. We had that polished and then re-chromed. We had the window surrounds completely re-chromed as well. This car is a Euro spec car. It was built for the German market, the European auto market. When he brought this car into the States back in the early 70s, he had to go through an import process, and as a result of going through that importation process, he had to add side marker lights. So he added these side marker lights. This car looks exactly like a US spec car, the difference being that it wouldn't have had fog lights. And of course, these are the US spec headlights, sealed beam headlights. The original European headlights had a big dome cover on it, and it was a dome light. And these are the European fog lights. I left the European fog lights because I kind of like that look. The turn signals are built into the headlight bezels here. But a lot of work went into the build of this car. And you know, we had to do some metal work on the fenders, these front aprons. We had to do some metal work on there as well. Again, there's a huge advantage in taking a car down to its metal, and in doing so, we could reveal all of its flaws with regards to rust, and having it all exposed allowed us to cut it all out in its entirety, replace it with good metal, and reshape it, use lead where we needed to, and copper, and just massage the body back to perfection. And that's essentially what we did. There's very little filler on this car. I mean, mind you, is there some Bondo? Of course, there's a little bit of Bondo here and there, but in all, it's a solid car. The floors were great on this car from the very beginning. The only problem that we had was the rear trunk floor, back where the jack sits, and where, you know, normally people put the spare tire. Those little tray areas had some rust, and we replaced those in its entirety, and we re-welded all that. But we did all the woodwork ourselves. We finished it in its original Bordeaux, kind of a burgundy-ish color interior. All the polish work on the car was done as well on the interior, and it shows. And what's so cool about the coupe, if you come around this way, look at the finish work on this car. I mean, all the chrome and the stainless and the aluminum, it just really showcases the quality that went into these coupes. They're just such a fantastic car, and you know, no B pillar, which is great. So it makes for a, you know, almost like some people would refer to this as a fixed roof convertible, because there's no B pillar, and we replaced all the rubber, so it requires a little bit of a slam to get the door to seal properly. But in all, I think it just came out fantastic. Love this car. And something else that's kind of unique. So in 69 and 70, they introduced a low grill coupe. And a low grill coupe could be had with a 6-cylinder or the 3.5 liter V8. This is the 6-cylinder 280 motor. And this is kind of referred to commonly as the high grill car. The high grill being that it has one more added bar in the grill, and it kind of has the grill stands up a little higher. The low grill is basically a squashed version of this. Some people love that look. I actually love that look as well, but it's hard to miss this. This grill is very Rolls-Royce-ish looking to me, and I just love the theme of it. But great handling car, great road car. There's a few little things that we have to do to it. The electric sunroof has been a problem from day one. We tried to fix it. It takes a very unique Mercedes only grease to re-grease the tube that the cable sits in for the electric motor to pull the top forward and the sunroof forward and back. And it's kind of been acting up. So we're going to send it out to a shop that kind of specializes in that. The only other thing we're going to do to this car is replace some of the front end bushings, just simply because there's a little bit of wandering going on. But overall, great road car. If you ever get an opportunity to drive one of these or own one of these, just be mindful of rust issues, because a lot of these have some severe rust issues. And of course, if this was a convertible, and if this was a 3.5 low grill convertible, $250,000, $300,000 is what a beautifully restored, you know, 3.5 71 Mercedes 280 SE is selling for today, and sometimes even higher than that, depending on, you know, color combination and its history. But a clean, super clean coupe in a 280 SE with a straight six, in this condition, anywhere from $75,000 to $100,000. In unrestored condition, $30,000, $40,000. In condition where you've got rust issues, you can get them in the low 20s. But again, you're going to be chasing metal and parts that they really, you know, they're not easy to find today. This is a great piece of machinery. It's extremely well built, and you could clearly tell the moment you get behind the wheel, it just feels like a very solid car for being 50 years old. I mean, it's insane what they did back in, you know, in the late 60s, early 70s.